Today is World Population Day, a day where the attention is focused on the importance of population issues. Established in 1989 by the United Nations, World Population Day is observed on July 11th every year. What Population Day really comes down to is trying to help regulate population. Basically, the world governments get together and try to figure out how to stop us from breeding ourselves into oblivion and poverty. Let's talk about some facts. As of today, we have exceeded 7,500,000,000 people on this planet. That's over 200,000 births a day, 140 new babies every minute. By the end of this video, over 1,000 new babies will be born, which probably also means 1,000 new pregnancies. Yeah. Anyway, worldmeters.info allows you to keep up with population numbers of the world, as well as past, present, and future population numbers. It's a really cool site, you should check it out. Just a little over 1,000 years ago, the total world population was a little under 400 million people. That's only 75 million less than the current population of the United States, which, by the way, is third on the most populous countries of the world list, but we'll get to that in a minute. Fast forward 800 years, and we reach our first billion. 160 years after that, and we're at 3 billion. In only 40 years, in 2000, we doubled and reached 6 billion. Which brings us to our current population of 7.5 billion across the globe. Geez, and we thought Netflix binging would lead us to a more distracted audience. Guess there's a reason for the term Netflix and chill. You may be surprised to know that while it may seem like we're exploding at an exponential rate, the opposite is true. In the late 60s, our growth rate peaked at 2.19%. You see, back in the day, there were so many wars, diseases, and other factors that you had a larger family to ensure your name carried on. At the beginning of the 20th century, life expectancy was only 50 years old. Hell, that would make me damn near ancient. Nowadays, life expectancy has increased dramatically due to health and technology breakthroughs. Today, our growth rate is only half of what it was in the 60s at 1.11%, and is steadily dropping as the need to have so many children is no longer necessary. In fact, experts estimate that the rate will continue dropping until it reaches only 0.5 by 2050. Don't get me wrong though, that's still a lot of births now that we're this large. Of the 7.5 billion people on this planet, almost 2 billion are between the ages of 10 and 24 years old. It's the largest population of young people ever in history. Over half the population is under 30. Again, feeling old here. The male versus female ratio is 1 man to every 1.1 women, so while the numbers are pretty even, men still lose arguments to women 3-0. So what's new? The 3 most populous countries in the world are China with just under 1.4 billion, India with 1.35 billion, and the US with 326 million. That's right, the gap between number 3 and number 2 is 1 billion people. Crazy. If we were willing to live as densely populated as Manhattan, you could fit the entire human race on the island of New Zealand. If we wanted to give ourselves more room and live as densely as New Jersey, you could fit us all on Australia, leaving the rest of the world as agricultural lands. If every human stood shoulder to shoulder, we could all fit within the confines of LA. If every human held hands and stood along the equator, we could circle the Earth almost 300 times. And if we stood on each other's shoulders, obviously impossible, we could reach the moon 30 times over. So what if our worst nightmare came true? the world was destroyed, humanity on the brink of extinction. How many people would it take to continue the species? 1 million? 10,000? Well, according to experts, the minimum viable population to continue the species would be between 80 to 100 people, provided these individuals were genetically chosen for such a task and were careful about inbreeding, taking care of diseases, and other factors. Granted, it would take a bit of time to restore the numbers, but the fact that there is a term for this is definitely interesting. There have been many conspiracies about controlling the population as well as reducing the population. Everything from vaccines to fluoride, there may have been many who believe that the powers that be will force the population to control itself. Here are a few that stood out. The United Nations has been the source of 2 conspiracy theorist nightmares regarding population control. Specifically, 2 things: Agenda 21 and the Codex Alimentarius. Agenda 21 is supposed to be a long-term plan for environmentally healthy development, efficient use of resources, and improved urban development. Conspiracy theorists think it's a plan to put us in clusters like megacities, leaving the elite with a nice green earth to live in. The Codex Alimentarius is a standard for food regulation and guidelines for safe production of food growth. Of course, the conspiracy guys think it's a way for the UN to keep food production under their control and keep food away from the useless feeders. Perhaps one of the most interesting and crazy conspiracies lies right here in the US. The Georgia Guidestones are a set of huge stone tablets built in a field in Elberton, Georgia. They were paid for by a mysterious and deeply religious man known as R.C. Christian, and built by the Elberton Granite Finishing Company. They were constructed in 1980 and sit as a set of guidelines for the living. There are 10 maxims engraved on the tablets, known as the Guiding Thoughts, and they're translated in 8 different languages. Most of them make sense, like protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts, and balance personal rights with social duties. Where things get interesting are when you read the first 3 thoughts, and the first one in particularly have raised concerns with conspiracy theorists as some kind of proclamation of the intentions of the New World Order. The first thought reads, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. If the population even then was over 5 billion, that would mean the population would have to be whittled down to the appropriate number. So you can see how this might cause alarm. If you want to check out more about the Georgia Guidestones, look it up on Google. It's some pretty weird stuff. While a lot of conspiracies don't have much merit, you may get a few shivers reading about these 3. You probably never thought you'd learn so much about our population, but really, I've only scratched the surface. The wealth of knowledge found in our peoples, our diversity, and the things we have in common are too many to count. One thing is for sure, as we grow larger, it will become more important that we learn to live with and love each other. As resources and land become more precious, we'll have to find a way to make sure everyone gets what they need. Or do we? Should we just take care of our own? What happened to survival of the fittest? Will there come a time when we'll need to make decisions about who lives or dies? In a world that already has so many people, will humanity's pursuit of immortality be its undoing? As people live longer, the population becomes harder to predict. Whatever the situation, I just hope that I have promoted the right values and spirit to my children and their children, who will most likely have to deal with the real-life situation. Well, those are my thoughts. You know how to take them. So what do you think? Are we going to overpopulate? Or will we get a handle on the situation? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, click here and see more from me. Haven't seen my other videos? Check these 2 gems out. Also, don't forget to hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. My links are in the description. Thanks for watching.